or Shibby, as people tend to call me. So I'm calling from Morecambe.
Yes.
Do you know Morecambe?
No, I don't believe I've ever been there.
Yeah, so it's on the northwest coast, fairly deprived.
Probably not.
Teesside town.
Yes.
I was born and brought up here, but I've moved around a lot and I've come back because houses are cheap.
Cheap.
Yeah.
It's
so
weird, isn't it? That in other countries, if you want a house by the sea, it's going to cost you a boatload.
Yeah.
But in this country, it's where the poor end up.
Yeah, you know your man Tyson Fury. He lives down the road from us, so he's a multi-millionaire, and he lives in Morecambe because it's amazing. So
it's amazing. Well, sell it to us. What's amazing about it?
About Morecambe, it's got the best sunsets, the best views, the best, looking out to it. We're about to get Eden 2, apparently, 2.0, the Eden Project. 2.
Are you?
Eden Project.
Eden Project, yeah. Like flowers and plants in a big greenhouse.
As in Eden, yeah. So apparently we're getting that. So,
that sounds great. Well, I'll see you at the entrance, Siobhan.
Yeah, no.
Save me a place in the queue.
What I was calling about actually is about economics, which I'm not an expert on, but so I've done my calculations and I am £36 a month better off. I know, cha-ching. So I want my £36 to go back into the coffers, please. How do I do that? Because I'd quite like them to sort out social care so that our elderly, our disabled, our people who are unable to sort themselves out can be looked after.
Well,
I work for the NHS.
Right. So if you want all of that, Siobhan, then if you want to give it to the government, I think it would probably be quicker just to set fire to it. Just set fire to your money and throw it out the window.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes, that's what I think. My husband is a higher rate taxpayer. He's also we have a massive power station here as well. We've got an EDF nuclear power station in Morecambe.
Like I said, I'm not going anywhere near it.
Yeah, my husband works there. My husband's an engineer. He works in nuclear power, so he earns quite a lot of money actually, and so he would get back about £100 a month. He's a union rep. He's a socialist. He would say, "I don't want that money. I want that to go back into the coffers, please."
Right. Well, send it to me, and I'll post it on to the relevant people. I promise that I'll do that. Thanks a lot, Siobhan. Alice texts, how do we know that plastic takes 400 years to biodegrade if it's only been around for less than 100? Well, that's a good question, Alice. I wish you'd asked somebody else. This says, did you know that since your whole show podcasts have gone exclusively on Global Player, that they have not appeared? What's happening? Says that tweeter. Well, they have appeared. I looked today. Because some people have been writing into me and Carol and saying, complaining about this and that.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
And so I checked, and they are there. Do an internet search on Nick Abbott, The Whole Show, Global Player podcast. Like I said, there's confusingly, there are 2 ways of listening to it on Global Player. Catch Up, like we do all of our shows, we put them all available on Catch Up, which is essentially how the show went out live. But there's also, for this show, one on Friday and Saturday, there's a podcast alternative. And that's what you want to go for, the podcast, because we take the news and the ads out so that a 3-hour show lasts about 2 hours 20, something like that. So it takes much less time to listen to. A bonus, yes?
Yes.
Yes. So you want to do an internet search on Global Player, Nick Abbott, The Whole Show podcast. That's the key word. And as I said before, Global Player is available for Apple, Android, and PC. You can use it just like an ordinary website, if that's what you want to do. And I do recommend it. It has enough entertainment squeezed into it to last you from now until the end of time. Brighton. Hello, Simon.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
I just want to say, Nick, I think Liz Truss is going to be the best Prime Minister that we've had since Margaret Thatcher.
The best Prime Minister we've had since Margaret Thatcher?
Yeah.
What makes you say that?
I think with her, the new budget they just released is fantastic for working families.
Like science fiction, you mean?
No. For working families, cutting national insurance, cutting tax. I just wanted to say that we need to have a little bit more personal responsibility in our lives.
What does that mean?
My husband and I were in Brighton. My niece came down with her husband a few days ago, and they want to go to McDonald's. We don't eat at McDonald's. A family in front of us, a man, a woman, and their 2 young children, they ordered Big Mac meals, blah, blah, blah. The bill came to £32.
Right. Excellent value for money. What's that got to do with personal responsibility? I learned this week that if you give money to poor people, it's a handout. If you give money to the better off, it's a growth plan. Chris says, I'm extremely pleased with the mini-budget because the government is going to fall flat in its face and hopefully the public will not vote them in again. I bet they do. I betcha that they do. I mean, after all, they only need about 46% of the people who express a preference to vote for them. And the people that vote Conservative are old and poor. Bizarrely. They are old and economically inactive, so they've got all the time in the world, and they are determined to vote regardless of what the weather is like outside. Whereas younger people, they're too busy having business meetings. They can't be bothered. Oh, vote, it's like so boring, I don't want to. Or I'll do it tomorrow, you know, that kind of attitude. Morons. We're surrounded by morons. And so they're just going to go full in on the war on woke, and they'll get people absolutely mad, furious, frothing at the mouth, and they can't wait to vote for the Conservatives again because the Conservatives are going to bring a crackdown on, I don't know, just fill in the gap, whoever it is that you dislike the most. It's all so painful. When is it going to stop? Steve in Bury St Edmunds says, my mate worked in a mayonnaise factory for many a year. I asked him, No. Listeners with material. There's a joke in there. You'll never know the punchline, ever. Lucy says, does Truckle-down economics envisage any plans for increasing the salaries of public sector workers other than reducing their income tax burden? No. Any further questions? Andrea says, the artificial intelligence system that runs the Tory party has been malfunctioning.
Affirmative.
Robo-Liz glitching during speeches, Chuckle Quasi hearing voices in his head. Johnson thanks Vladimir Putin for an inspirational leadership. He did. A slip of the tongue, eh, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
Yes. Any IT people out there who can reprogram them before Uganda takes over our economy and Putin's ego explodes, says Andrea. Yeah, we have an IT problem.
Affirmative.
What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Let's have Guildford. Peter.
Hello, Nick. Hope you're well.
I'm great, mate.
Yeah, with this budget, what we've seen is the government showing complete and utter contempt for the poor and everybody else in the country.
Yeah.
But we can't expect anything else. They are the government by the rich, for the rich.
And
they
the
always
poor,
have been.
and the poor keep voting for them,
I
Peter.
know.
It's not the rich that are voting for the Conservative Party.
I know that's what's so baffling, but I think that might change a bit because the Brexit issue is, well, it's not done, but that's what they voted for. But this time they're having this rubbed in their face. They're seeing that the rich are getting richer and they are going to get poorer. I mean, how on earth can they talk about trade unions being greedy when they're going on strike for 8%, 9%, and this, that, and the other, when they just lifted the cap off of bankers' bonuses and reduced the higher rate of tax?
I'll tell you how they can do it. It's because they know that they will win by just saying that what you've said is the politics of envy. And people who are on £10 an hour will think about it and nod their heads and think, yeah, that's right, it's the politics of envy. Why don't you stop moaning about it? And they will then vote them back in again. I bet they do.
I think the double standards are staggering, Nick, aren't they? When Jeremy Corbyn wanted to put more spend more on public services,
yeah.
He was, NHS and schools and hospitals and the like.
Yeah, radical lefty socialist.
A loony, an absolute loony. But we've got a situation now where we're going to borrow money to give to the richest people in the country, hoping that there's economic growth. There might be, there probably won't be. And then a few years down the line, the taxpayer will either have a rise in their income tax or will have another round of austerity and benefit cuts, like we had when the bankers created the crisis in 2008.
There's no way around it, Peter. There will be more austerity, this time on steroids. If you think it was bad last time, just wait.
I tell you, Nick, it's like we're being run, I hate to say it, but it's like we're being run by psychopaths. They got no feeling. They got no feeling at all.
Well, but a certain amount of psychopathy is beneficial if you want to get to the top. If you are concerned with the feelings of others, by which I mean, or by which they would define as being woke, then it is an impediment to success. If you don't care about the feelings of others, then you can trample over anybody that gets in your way in order to reach the toppermost of your chosen field, Peter.
That's right. I mean, look at the way they treat each other. They stick the knife in each other's backs, like, slice butter and a slice of bread. It's easy to them. And then we wonder, with people like that in power that are that nasty to each other, why they treat us like dirt.
Yes.
We got psychopaths running, people like that.
They keep treating us like dirt, Peter, because we keep voting for them. There is no amount of punishment with which we will not put up.
I think another problem is this right-wing press, this right-wing concentration that's feeding out these constant lies, even about they go on about Jezza. But before that, we had Red Ed.
Well,
and he was nothing of the sort.
They lie about their own business. The refrain is it's the left-wing elite mainstream media. But the mainstream media in this country is owned by offshore, foreign-based billionaires.
And then you turn on the tally, Nick, and what do you see? GB News and some other crackpot organisation.
Well, I haven't, Peter. Other channels are available.
Yeah, they are. And I watch them. The other channels, that is.
Well, that's just going to make you angry.
NLBC, of course.
Oh, yeah.
NLBC.
Right.
But it's just, we're being taken for a ride. And it does make you wonder, after God knows how many years, when are people going to
wake up?
And realise...
Wake up, sheeple. It's later than you think. Exactly. Imagine that we are in like a child's car. The government are doing the steering, but we, dopes, are doing all the pedalling. If we stop pedalling, they wouldn't be able to steer where they want to go anymore. That's all. It's as simple as that, but we just won't do it. Here, Peter, I've got to go, but thanks for that. Calm down, mate. It might never have. Oh, no, that's right. It already has. Benny tweets, the NASA launch has been suspended because of a storm. This means this mean machine that travels faster than the speed of sound can bust through the atmosphere twice and take asteroid hits, but can't fly through a bit of cloud and wind. Says Benny, a rocket expert. Johnny texts, the Northern Independence Party are calling for Northumbria to be its own country. I love it, as the border literally falls at the foot of our house here in Sheffield and Hallam. Bye-bye Westminster, long live the King of the North. Yeah, good luck with that. Kath in North Wales texts, hi Nick, I went to university with a girl from an Irish family. Her name was pronounced Anya, but was spelt A-I-N-E. Well, that's just deliberately confusing. So all of the letters in her name are silent and are replaced by completely different letters. Okay. Beckenham. Hello, Stanley.
Oh, hello. Oh, Mr. Nick Abbott. Is that you, sir? Oh,
Stanley.
that's right, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you. I've called a couple of times. You told me off for being a listener with material, so I'm starting to learn the ropes. Didn't intend to. Now, Liz Truss's budget. Now, it's her and the Chancellor of the Exchequer. It's been done between them. The way I see it is this. Liz Truss has sat down to play poker with 24 other countries. She's got 3 cards in front of her. She's picked them up. She's got a 2, a 3, and a 5 of 3 different suits. Now, she has decided, when she puts back down on the table, she's decided to go all in. With all the money in the Treasury and all the money she can borrow, she's gone all in on a big bluff. 2 things she's overlooked. First, she's the only person so far to put any money on the table. And the second thing is, if she looks at the table, she's put her cards down face up. The rest of the world knows she's bluffing. She's looking for investment in Britain, fine. But this is not the right way to go about it.
Okay, that was way too confusing, Stanley. You sort of lost me, and I was thinking about what colour the table, the baize on the table is. I think you need to maybe simplify your argument a little bit there, Stanley. But good effort. Did anybody understand that?
No.
Not really. It's more like the government has got its last 10p, and it's decided to just put it in a one-armed bandit, and to hell with it. Paul says, if Crazy Kwarteng finds the death of one 96-year-old hilarious, then he's going to be rolling on the floor screaming with laughter all winter. Alistair says, you're probably right about the Vatican, but Nauru, I don't know, is the only other country without a recognised capital. I bow to the great god Google, says Alistair. Well, now you know. Nauru, now you know. Educational, this show, no?
No.
George says, we are witnessing disaster capitalism. Short the pound and make money out of it, but why wait for one disaster to come along when you can create one? Yeah, I believe, I would be easily persuaded that that is precisely what they're doing, creating disasters. Of course, it's easy to profit from a disaster if you know it's coming. Easy to place a bet on something that you know for certain is going to happen. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Let me remind you, I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin.
Oh, right, yeah.
It's called What's Your Problem with Nick and Carol? In most weeks, I laugh, and I know that she does too, in that hour that we do, more than any other hour in the week. I mean, we do make each other laugh a lot. And if you want us to have a go at solving your problem, because that's the nature of the podcast, we try to solve people's problems. If you've got a problem and you want us to try to bend our brain to solve it for you, then send it to this email address, nickandcarol@global.com. nickandcarol @global.com, and be prepared for a certain amount of satisfaction. If you've got an hour and you wish to be amused, it'll be right up your alley. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol?
Oh, right, yeah.
LBC. Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I enjoy working with people.
0345 6060 973. Alexandra texts, just in case you fancy catching it, Gary Barlow has his own show on in the West End. It's just him at a keyboard telling his life story. This earns him £10,000 a night. After tax, that amounts to £10,000. Gary Barlow's doing a show. Let me think about that. Oh, that almost worked. Never mind. Insert your own sound effect here. Jurgen in Balham says, listening to the Chancellor deliver the budget reminded me of that drunk guy in the casino at the end of the night that has lost everything in their wallet but goes all in case they manage to win it all back. They never do. The house always wins. And Nick says, in defence of Crazy Kwarteng, laughing... no. Jack says, Truss is a catastrophe, but I bet the Mail will somehow blame Meghan Markle for the inbound economic meltdown. Yeah, thanks a lot, Meghan Markle. No! You see what you've done? Obsessed they are. Obsessed to a weird, weird degree. The press in general about Meghan Markle. I mean, it's just odd how obsessed they are. But they are because they know you are. Here's the thing. If you want them to stop writing articles about Meghan Markle, stop clicking on them online. I mean, they have detailed files. They know how many people click on stories that they put online. And they keep writing them, and you people keep clicking on them, and so they're going to keep writing them. That's why the Beckham kids are always all over the Mail online. And anybody that keeps getting press again and again and again and again and again, you think, why do they keep writing stories about these people? It's because people keep clicking on them. It's all about the money, honey. Bromley. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Nick. Well, it's the old capital gains tax again, isn't it? I mean, they've played this card so many times. I mean, there was one pundit that once said, I can remember, not the name, but many years ago saying, well, it's a great thing. If we cut capital gains tax, people will move house. They'll buy a bigger house. They'll go like carpets. They'll renovate. There'll be lots of trades work. There'll be lots of things sold and bought. Kitchens, cookers, cleaners, washing machines.
Yeah.
And it don't work. Well, I'll tell you why it won't work now. They've shot themselves completely in the foot by the simple virtue of the fact that people have no money. Wages are so depressed. The cost of living is beyond the bounds of reason. Interest rates are going to keep on going up to stem inflation.
Yeah.
So how is it going to work? I mean, if that's a mini budget...
Well, I have an answer to that.
God help us when the big one comes out.
Yeah, well, quite. I have an answer to how it will work. You're going at it from the wrong end. It's not for all of us. It's for the vanishingly few number of people that are going to directly benefit from it. The plan is not to enrich the many. It's to further concentrate the wealth in the hands of the donor class. So in that method, or by that method, it will work. It's just that you're not thinking about it in the correct way.
Well, you see, when you hit the thing about the wokeness, I mean, where are we going to go from here? Look at the trouble we are in. I mean, does it take a greater brain than mine, of which there are plenty, to just understand the trouble we are in?
It doesn't matter how much trouble we're in. The more angry people get, the more unfocused will be their ire. And so that will be the job of the government. They will concentrate and double down on focusing your anger on a small, identifiable group of people. It doesn't really matter who they are. It can be single mothers. It used to be that. I was talking to some woman on the show just recently about that. It used to be single mothers. It used to be benefits claimants and, benefits cheats. And it'll be like people who smoke marijuana or middle-class people who take cocaine. Or it'll be people in dinghies, of course. That never gets old. And the war on woke, unisex toilets, they're just going to go full on with that in order to distract you from the fact that you're starving to death. And freezing to death. And I bet it works. It's worked so far. It's worked a treat. Why would they change a winning formula? It's what they've been doing for the last 12 years. Taking money from the poor and giving it to the rich. And the poor respond by voting for them again. So, it's our fault. Almost everything that ails us is our fault. Our direct fault. If we stopped supporting the things that are damaging us, then those things wouldn't damage us anymore. I mean, it seems fairly clear to me, but you can't tell people. They just will not be told. All right, thanks a lot, Joe. I think there's something in the human race that really likes feeling superior to another group of people. So they just tap into that. These people are coming over here on boats, so they must be after our biscuits, or they're a lesser type of person. and it goes through, through everything, really. That person's got different colour skin to me, so I must be a better type of person. That person in the doorway who is sleeping there, it's the reason that he is there is it's his fault. He's a slacker. Not that he just had 2 or 3 very unfortunate incidents happen to him in a row, and just like all of us who miss 2 months of wages, he's homeless. I mean, can many of us actually cope with losing 2 months' worth of wages and still keep our homes and keep them heated and keep food on the table? Not really. I mean, there's not many people who have actually got anything in the bank at all. We subsist from one paycheck to the next. And that's exactly where they want us. It's like I was saying last night. They want you up to your eyeballs in debt on a hamster wheel, running furiously to keep up and to pay the interest on those debts. That's what, and then you'll be trapped, essentially, in a life in a life that's so precarious that you don't want to upset the apple cart. You don't want to make any sudden moves because you might fall off there, and there is no safety net, not really. And then you're trapped forever. But people keep voting for it because they keep tapping into that instinct that makes you want to feel superior to somebody. And even though you might on the surface feel that everybody is equal and we all deserve a shake of a stick and so on, there's just something in us that makes us want to blame others for their own misfortune. And that's a pretty potent weapon that they will use against us, and they are using against us, and that is essentially what this war on woke thing is. And it's been so successful up till now for them that they are definitely not going to give that up. They're going to be going full bore on it. And the press love that because it sells newspapers. People can be outraged that, oh my God, there's a unisex toilet. And this minority of people, they want rights. So that's what is in our immediate future. Because as I keep saying, they haven't got anything else. They won't be able to say, well, look at the NHS. Under our munificent leadership, look at the state of the NHS. So they won't be able to do that, and they won't be able to point to the economy and tell us how great they're doing on that. And all of the things that a party would normally try to persuade voters to vote for them based on their record on is all a complete and total disaster. Plus, they've been in power for 12 years, which is normally 2 years longer than the public can stand. So the only thing that's left to them is to persuade you that other people are trying to take what's yours and that other people are somehow less than you are. And the government will protect you from them. God, it's also wearily predictable. Or, as Liz Truss would say,
we have never had it so good.
Amy texts, why do people focus so much on Keir Starmer as the head of the party? How about considering the policies his party represents that maybe don't screw over the poorest in society? This says, Nick, I think we're going to have another period of austerity. I have a track and trace app to sell. The Tories will simply say it's an unprecedented crisis and we have to outsource the public services to save them. A track and taste app.
Contact tracing.
Oh, give it up, Bodge. You're never going to get it. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nicka@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbot, LBC.
on your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
Linda in Weston-super-Mare says, "It's my 61st birthday today. Could I have a birthday treat? I'd love to hear the Farage clip, the one that I play a lot. It always makes me laugh," she says. No. Not even for your birthday, Linda.
I'm immensely grateful to you for everything you've done in British politics over the last few years. I used to be an ardent Remainer. I voted Remain. I believed in the European project.
Mm-hmm.
I believed that staying in the European Union was the best thing for us. And then something happened, and something monumental happened. It completely changed my opinion on the whole situation.
What was that monumental thing, Mark?
I was kicked in the head by a horse.
Right, very good. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I love the way he says, what was that monumental thing, Mark? 0345 6060 973. Let's have a call in. Let's be fair about this. Who's been waiting the longest? Just by mere seconds, it's Tracy in Dudley. Hello, Tracy.
Hiya. Basically, I think you've covered everything while I was on hold, to be perfectly honest.
Right.
We're all moaning, aren't we, about, Liz Truss and everything. Can't stand them myself. But why do people, as you've said, on the phone, like recording, why do the working classes constantly vote in the Tories? Or not vote, because if you don't vote, obviously the Tory voters are always going to vote.
Yes.
So they're always going to win.
Right.
And it doesn't make any sense to me. I think we need excluding Tories or Labour, what have you. We're in this mess because of politics, because the way it works. 1 minute it's left, 1 minute it's right.
Right.
Right. Normally on the right wing, and God knows how they get in. And it's look at the mess we're in, and then you get people saying, "Oh, Margaret Thatcher, wasn't she brilliant?"
No.
Well, no, she sodding wasn't.
No, she wasn't.
And neither was Tony Blair or anybody who's ever been in politics, because we're in a hell of a mess.
Tony Blair did leave the country in a better state.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've always been a Labour supporter, but the whole point is, look at the mess we're in. It doesn't matter who's been in.
what we need, Tracy, is a rainbow coalition that actually represents all of the people in this country. But we don't. We have one dictatorship followed by another one.
Exactly. We need a new politics.
We need a new way of electing our representatives.
politics.
Yeah, we need
Absolute.
proportional representation, a rainbow coalition for a fairer country. Correctamundo.
Absolutely, but it's never going to happen.
Oh,
as
it
long
might
as
do.
people
The majority of the people in this country now
I'm old
who expressed...
now. I'm really old, and I've lived through all this
How
rubbish.
old are you?
57.
That's not really old.
Well, I've had... it is, and I've had enough of it. It's never changed. Nothing's changed.
No, you can't say that. She's very, very emotional. She just lost control just for a moment there. Forgot where she was. Thanks a lot, Tracy. Calm down, dear. It might never Oh, no, that's right. It already has. Just complaining a bit.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
About, everything. Annette tweets, the Tories have been so successful at gaslighting the poor. That's why they keep winning elections. They are master gaslighters. Ain't that right, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
That's a yes. It works. It really works. Tell people that up is down and black is white, and what they can see with their own eyes does not exist. Gaslighting makes you doubt your own sanity. That's right. And they just they'll point at an identifiable minority and tell you to hate them. Those are the people that are responsible for the reason that your life is a misery. And people go, oh yeah, that's right. Let's hate those people. by which method you take your eye off those who are actually responsible. Sue says, it's quite clear to me that the Conservatives are protecting their assets, knowing that they will lose the next election. In the meantime, I predict a riot. Well, it's sung by the Kaiser Chiefs. Is that what you mean?
Rock and roll!
I suspect that they may actually be convinced that they will lose the next election. I mean, it's unusual for a party to stay in power for quite so long. I mean, even if they were doing tremendously well, people just get sick of it. They think, something else. You know, you watch a TV program and it's very, very good and you enjoy it, but you can have too much of it and then you want something else. I think it's like that. But they're not doing very well. They're doing abysmally badly. Everywhere you look, it's a catastrophe. And so I wouldn't be remotely surprised if they did actually believe that they are going to lose the next general election. I mean, the polls appear to predict just that. And then that informs what they're doing right now, which appears to be, like I keep saying, it's not a government, it's a smash and grab raid. They're just charging in, filling their pockets with as much as they can possibly carry, and then they'll charge out, spend more time enjoying their money for a while Labour is in power. And the very second that a Labour government takes over, the Tories will blame them for everything that they have caused in the last 12 years. You know that that's true. If the next general election results in a Labour government, the Tories, without taking a breath, will say that everything that ails this country is the fault of this new Labour government. And people, the really upsetting part is that people will say, oh yeah, that's right. Thanks a lot, Keir Starmer. They'll blame him. That's what the public do. A government will take a decade or more disassembling everything that we rely on in this country, and then the second a new government takes over, it's suddenly their fault. It's infuriating, actually, but, that's just people. We got memories like goldfish. 0345 6060 973. Bethany says, have you seen the new Amazon series, Rings of Power? $1 billion worth of tripe. No. What is it? Is that the new Lord of the Rings? Or is it the Game of Thrones thing? Because they both come out at the same time, and it's a bit confusing. I haven't actually watched either of them yet, but I think maybe one or the other. They should have one and then the other, because they're a bit alike, aren't they? But anyway, no, I have not seen it, Bethany. But thanks for the recommendation. $1 billion worth of tripe, you say? Well, that sounds great. God, I had about $1 billion worth of poop on my car last night. I mean, my car was relatively clean when I parked it last night and walked to work. And by the time I got back, I parked it under a tree.
Oh, no.
And, I don't know, but the birds, I don't know what they were eating. But they were certainly evacuating a lot of it. It's like they had a bring-your-own-poop party. I have never seen as much concentrated bird poop on one car in my life. And it just in the few hours that I was here. It's like they deliberately ganged up on me. No other car in the street had been so affected, and it was everywhere. You could barely see my car underneath this giant mound of poop that had been created while I was here at work last night. You could see the headlights just sticking out this huge pile of bird poop, but that was about it. And it sets like concrete. You can't get that stuff off. And without the requisite tools, all I had was the window wipers, which, of course, just smears it all over the windscreen.
Disgusting.
Oh, yeah, it was awful. I'm never going to park there again. But it does give me a good idea for a recommendation for Steve Allen. Steve, I've got a great place for you to park your Bentley. It's it'll do a treat. It's right near work, very, very convenient. Trust me. You do trust me, don't you? 0345 6060 973. Teesside. Hello, Tom.
Hi. All right. So the reason I'm calling, Nick, is because when you're asking the question, why do the poor keep voting for the Conservatives? No, I'm not a Conservative voter. I want to put that out there, but I've got a lot of members of my family that do vote Conservative. Teesside, as you may know, is quite a deprived area. Got a lot of social issues, and in the last few elections, it's became Conservative, and the red wall has sort of been broken down, and a lot of people wonder why. And I think I have quite a good idea as to why, and it goes back to simply being when Labour were in, when there was, obviously Andy MacDonald is still there, but when there was other Labour MPs there as well, a lot of the Labour MPs, rightly so, may I add, focused on the social issues impacting Teesside, focused on things like the steelworks going under and everything like that. And then these Conservatives candidates came along and started ignoring those issues. We're talking about how we can do things like bring Teesside Airport back under public ownership, get a Freeport status after Brexit.
Yeah.
And
be alarmed about that whole Freeport scheme. Be very alarmed.
I am 100%. But they talked about, and I actually think a lot of people, even myself, don't always understand exactly what they're telling us. But you see, a lot of people in Teesside, particularly working class people, I think they got to a point where they felt like they were sick of being viewed as less. They were sick of being tarred with the poverty and the unemployment and the suicide rates. And for once, there was people coming along who were saying, hey, actually, there is some great things about Teesside. And there is great things about Teesside, but the problem is those Conservative candidates, those MPs, people like Simon Clarke, ignore the real issues that are affecting Teesside, but talk about the things that Teessiders want to hear.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying before about people get sick of a government. I mean, if you have the same party in power for 10 or 12 years, then people just get tired of it and they want something else. So I would imagine that in Teesside, it had been Labour who were running that area for at least that amount of time, and people still were not getting anywhere. So they think, well, I don't know, let's try something else. And then also, on top of that was the delicious argument about foreigners coming over here and taking your biscuits. So there was that as well. Let's not kid ourselves. But promises they had no intention of keeping. And even if they did, weren't going to benefit the people that they were trying to persuade to vote for them. But yeah, I get it. No. You're not getting anywhere. It's been the same people in charge, so let's try something else. Well, how's that working out?
Well, it's not working out. I mean, I worked in mental health in Teesside, and I see the real. Yeah. I see firsthand the real issues that people experience. Right. And what I would like to see, though, and I think what would help Labour in Teesside is I do understand where people come from in terms of they don't want to be talked down all the time, but the fact is we do have a lot of problems that need to be addressed.
You can't address a problem unless you actually admit that it exists.
Exactly. But there is also some great things about us. And I think so Teesside Airport's a really good one because Teesside Airport was something that obviously Ben Houchin, the Metropolitan Conservative Mayor, really pushed. And at the time, a lot of local Labour, like the Mayor, people on councils, were very much against the idea because of the financial impact of it. And I understood the concern, but the public wanted it.
Do you mind if we don't get bogged down into tiny details about something that most people have absolutely no idea about? But I think in short, the argument is, as before, people get sick of not getting anywhere and they want to blame those that are in power, even though it might not necessarily be their fault, because if you've got a Labour council but it's a Conservative government, then they are hamstrung. The council are hamstrung somewhat, particularly if that Conservative government is defunding the council and then blaming the council for not being able to provide as necessary, which is a special trick that the Tories have. Same with the police. You got Cruella de Braverman, our new Home Secretary, who is blaming the police for not solving crime. She's missing the part out about the Tory party having defunded the police for 12 straight years. We got something like 20,000 fewer police persons on the street. We've got 23,000 fewer backstreet staff or back office staff that help the police. They sold off half the police stations and half the magistrates' courts and have defunded the legal system. So that might actually have some bearing on the police's lack of ability to actually keep crime down. But they don't talk about that. Same with the councils. It's the same plan, and it works because people will blame the local council for not being able to afford to, provide care and fix the roads and so on. They'll miss out the part that the Tory government have been defunding that council in order to make people dissatisfied with the Labour Party, who happen to be the leaders of those councils. All right, thanks, Tom. Even if you know what's happening, it's difficult to actually remove yourself from it and think logically about what is actually going on here, because your instinct is to just kind of lash out at whatever you see in front of you. And if the council is Labour and things aren't going your way, then you'll blame them. Ain't necessarily their fault. 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. And if you're on Twitter, it's @LBC. Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at 10. Nick Abbott, LBC.
LBC. This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
You've got a good, your mind is a little bit, three-dimensional.
No, I have no idea what you mean. Chris in Nottingham says, "Hi Nick, can we afford to gaslight people these days?" That's a good point. And Andy says, "I have never heard the full LBC theme tune before. Did Jeff Wayne write it?"
Rock and roll!
What, Jeff Wayne out of War of the Worlds? I don't know, but I seriously doubt it. Let's have Carnforth. Hey up, Annie.
Hey up, Nick. How you doing?
Great, mate. Good.
I didn't ring up about this, but I just wanted to second what your caller from Morecambe said about Morecambe having the best views. It absolutely does have the most stunning, dramatic view from any prom, I think, in the country. You won't find anywhere better. It looks straight out over the bay, straight over to the mountains, the Lake District, and fantastic sunsets. And the town itself is a bit run down, but the area is beautiful.
Right.
All of the countryside, it's fantastic, and it's full of nature reserves. If anybody likes bird watching or wildlife or wildflowers, it's amazing.
Well, that sounds a delight. I'm going to put it on my list.
Oh, yes, I'll send you some leaflets.
No, that's okay.
'Cause I have many.
I'll look it up on the World Wide Web.
Yes, no, do. Yeah, no, it's really nice. The whole area,
Morecambe. I don't even know where it is. Where is it?
Well, it's 8 miles down the road from where we are. We're on the north end of Morecambe Bay. Morecambe Bay is a big, bay. It's quite a big area. But
Hence the name, yeah.
Yeah, Morecambe is sort of in the middle of it. But, if you come up north, especially, that's an AONB where we live.
I'm looking it up on the map as we speak.
It's Silverdale and Arnside AONB.
Oh, there it is. Right.
It's gorgeous, yeah.
Okay, just sort of north of Preston. And Barrow-in-Furness is just over the way there.
You don't want to go there.
Okay.
Sorry, that's where I went to hospital the other week. It's the end of the earth.
And just, so it's right where, it's about the same latitude as the Isle of Man.
Yes, yeah.
I get you. North of Manchester and Liverpool.
Yes, yeah, quite a way north, yeah. It's on the Cumbrian border.
Right, it's about as far up as Leeds, just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, there's stuff you learn on this show, eh? It's like an education, yes?
No.
Not really.
Yes, and very lovely, so do recommend it.
All right then.
But anyway, that's not what I'm up about. I just rang up because you were saying, that we're all due for, another dose of austerity. And I was thinking, well, actually, I don't. For a lot of people, austerity's never finished.
Well, that's right. Yeah.
It's if you're somebody who needs social care and can't get it, well, you need an ambulance and you're having to wait 17 hours. I mean, our care agency has now bought a sort of electric machine to get people off the floor, because if some of their clients are full, and in fact my partner fell the other day, unfortunately didn't hurt himself, but he was on the floor and couldn't get up, and obviously I can't get him up, and we didn't have a carer then, so I just rang them up and they whizzed up with this kind of electric machine that hoists you up.
Wow, like a robot.
It's amazing, because you can get ones that you have to sort of turn a handle, which I think takes forever and would be really hard work. But so this thing, it just whizzes you up. But lots of care agencies don't have that, and so older people are just lying on the floor for hours and hours and hours. There was some guy, I can't remember where he was. He was in the garden for 17 hours, and his relatives on the floor, and his relatives had to build a shelter around him.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah,
amazing.
Terrible.
Well, if you just wait a while, then the government will introduce robots like that, except that they'll be the Terminator.
Correct.
Oh God, honestly, I just can't believe it. And that clip you play of Truss saying, is she saying we've never had it so good, or you've never had it so good?
We have never had it so good.
Yeah, well, she's right about that, isn't she? The likes of her, bloody millionaires, and, all that, half of that blooming Tory cabinet are millionaires.
Yeah.
They've never had it so good.
Correct.
She's absolutely right about, but the rest of us, we're all stuffed.
Yeah, well, the rest of us keep voting for them.
I know. Well, not all of it. I mean, it was only a minority of people actually that voted. Because
it's always a minority of people.
System.
I think every government, every Tory government since the Second World War, and they've been in power for about 2/3 of the time since the Second World War, and I think with maybe one exception, they have always been a minority government with 100% of the power.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. And I just wish the Labour Party would pull itself together and just realise that, if it doesn't go, actually pass a motion at conference for...
they have to do it. Proportional representation. We must do PR. Has to happen. But I don't think it will, because they like the idea of themselves being the party with 100% of the power, and so they think that they can manage that. And if they do win and they don't enact a proportional representation law, then when they lose again, every single thing that they've done will be undone, and they'll be out of power for another 12 years.
I know, it's madness, isn't it? It's complete madness. They really ought to do it. And also, Keir Starmer really ought to be changing his policy on renationalising the utilities, because that's really popular now. I was listening to Andy Burnham actually yesterday on a sort of like a panel thing where a program where they're being asked questions and everything, and he's in favour of it, and he's such a good speaker, and I was thinking, oh, for goodness sake, Labour Party, why don't you just do what the Tories do, dispatch with Keir Starmer, and
it's an excess of timidity, Annie.
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah, he doesn't want to do anything that's going to frighten anybody away. But by doing that, he's not bringing anybody to him. That's the unfortunate position he finds himself in. Hey, I think your thing is going there.
Telling me to take some medicine now.
All right, well, I'll leave you to it. Thanks a lot, Annie. 0345 6060 973. Beatrice tweets, the old trickle-down economics, benefits the rich, paid for by the poor. Trickle-down does not work. Lower taxes on the wealthy doesn't create more employment, consumer spending, or recoup revenue. Tories still cannot grasp it or don't want to. See, I think that everyone's coming at this in the wrong way. It's not a mistake. It's the plan. It's not an error on their part. They're not hoping that trickle-down economics will work for the benefit of all of us. They're not remotely interested in all of us. It will work for the benefit of those who it is intended to work for, those that already have. The donor class. Everything else is secondary. I don't know why people are wasting their time crunching the numbers, trying to see if it's going to work for us. It has no intention of working for us. That is my opinion. This says, Nick, you're right, the country is being primed for asset stripping. Primed? They've done it already. They've almost run out of things to sell. And so now they're selling the actual land underneath your feet. And they're calling it Freeports. Carving out giant areas of the country and giving them to corporations so that they can run them like their own private fiefdom. Because, I mean, what else do we have that's British that they haven't sold off? Once you sell your water, what's left? Cruella de Braverman, who is our actual Home Secretary, if you can believe that.
No.
She's accusing the police of not solving enough crime because they're too busy doing the wokey-cokey.
Okie-dokie.
Wokey-cokey.
Okie-dokie.
You know, being too concerned about other people's feelings. That's the reason that crime's through the roof. It has nothing to do with the 22,000 fewer civilian personnel in the police service, the 20,000 fewer actual police persons. Nothing to do with them closing down and selling off half of the police stations and half of the magistrates' courts, draining the legal system of cash and presiding over the biggest dismantling of the forces of law and order that any of us have ever seen. And the forcing of millions into poverty, who are told that asking for a higher wage makes you the enemy of the state, took away our hope, our ability to survive without charity, and now they're wondering why crime is up. It really is a puzzler, yes?
No.
But that's got nothing to do with it, and it's all about the police, being concerned about unisex toilets. Right. Cruella de Braverman wrote that she was deeply concerned by the crime figures. Well, we can add that to the things that we are deeply concerned about, Cruella, starting with you.
Correct.
Official reports have warned a national shortage of detectives, while Boris Johnson's push to recruit 20,000 extra constables in 3 years is creating an inexperienced workforce of green coppers who don't know which end of their truncheon to beat a hippie with. Andy Cook, HM Chief Inspector of Constabulary, previously told The Independent that police are unable to go back to basics on crime because of the impact of years of austerity on other public services has left them spending up to a third of their time on non-policing matters such as medical emergencies and mental health incidents. Correct, Armundo. The Tories have gutted the healthcare system that used to deal with people with mental health issues, and now the police are left to deal with them, which they aren't qualified to do and don't have the time for. It's the same with everything that the regime do. Defund an organisation and then blame the people that work there for not being able to cope. Like I said, they do it with Labour councils all the time, with great success, because the mouth breathers blame the Labour council for what the Tory government should have provided. And just when you thought that they couldn't possibly find anyone worse than Priti Patel to be the Home Secretary, the Blunder Truss found a way and appointed Cruella, who said that the new government has a crime-cutting agenda, which is nice because the last one seemed to have a crime-committing agenda. Ain't that right, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
Yes. Cruella said, unfortunately, there is a perception that the police have had to spend too much time on symbolic gestures than actually fighting criminals. This must change. You've got to be kidding me. Unfortunately, there is a perception that, that's because you and the offshore billionaire right-wing press keep writing it. That's not the reason the police can't cope. The police can't cope because we have 22,000 fewer civilian police personnel, 20,000 fewer police persons. They closed and sold off half of the police stations and the magistrates' courts. They drained the legal system of cash and presided over the biggest dismantling of forces of law and order that anyone has ever seen. Not that the police are handing out pink badges and rainbow anklets. And, if I was a police person, I'd be pretty upset at that. I mean, apart from blaming them for the government's failures, they don't prioritise diversity over fighting criminals. I mean, you can actually be concerned about the feelings of others while doing your job, But I don't think that this lot quite understand that, because they've never been concerned about the feelings of others. But like I said, it's also predictable because it's the war on woke, doing the wokey cokey.
Okie dokie.
It's all they've got left. And you remember that Bodger and Patel used to say over and over how crime has fallen by 14% under their munificent leadership, whereas in truth it had actually gone up 14%. Their own statistics watchdog told them to stop saying it, but they didn't. They kept repeating it.
Liar!
Well, no surprise, here comes the new boss, same as the old boss. Cruella claimed that overall crime, excluding fraud and computer misuse, has fallen. But as fraud and computer misuse are crimes, that's a totally meaningless statement. It's like saying, if you don't count any crimes, the crime rate is 0. Braverman said that she wanted the police to send officers in person to burglaries and focus on tackling neighbourhood crime, drug-fuelled offences and antisocial behaviour. And they might be able to do that if the Tories hadn't defunded the legal system, created 22,000 fewer civilian personnel, 20,000 fewer police persons, closed down and sold half of the police stations and the magistrates' courts, and drained the legal system of cash and presided over the biggest dismantling of the forces of law and order that any of us have ever seen. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
0345 6060 973. East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, one thing to think about, though, is that people generally don't like change. And if you look at Cruella Suella, there's no change from Pretty Patel, so that won't disturb people much, will it?
No. They'll like it. Spotting dinghies. That never gets old.
No, going on that front, you're talking about Tory tactics at the next election, and it will be the dinghies and it will be woke. And the other thing that came up in the announcement the other day is that they're now going to pursue universal credit claimants who work. If they don't work some more, they're going to cut the benefits.
Right.
I mean, they're going to go on that in January, because that comes in January. But the other thing that I noticed the other day, I was looking at the enterprise zones that they've announced and the proposals for them. And amazingly, I mean, it must be a coincidence, they just happen to cover about all the red wall seats that they won at the last election.
Well, once they start those things, people are not going to be pleased because it doesn't actually create any wealth. All it does is move jobs. All it does is move jobs from one part of the country into another part of the country that has fewer laws and protections than the place that they've just moved from. You'll move into your job will cease to exist because the company will up sticks and move to where they don't have to pay any tax. And they don't have to adhere to employment laws like they do in the rest of the country. So you'll get less money, you'll get less holidays, you'll get less protection, you'll get less sick pay, and so on and so on and so on. It's absolutely astonishing what they're doing. And we've been here before. It's not like they haven't tried it before. We had about, 7 or 8 under David Cameron's leadership, and they were so unsuccessful that he canned them. We've done this before.
Yeah, it's not a new policy at all, but what they can say is that you people are now in an enterprise zone. You are thrusting entrepreneurs, and we're going to give you all this, and the sunny uplands that will follow from what we're doing for you. It's just another tactic on it, but it would work if it was 5 places, if it was Redcar, Morecambe, Blackpool, somewhere down south.
I'm not sure it would work. In what way would it work? It won't bring in any wealth, because the wealth, the whole point of a free port is that you can operate as though you weren't in this country. It's just a tax haven.
Yeah, I'm talking about enterprise zones, though. If you do that, you would move firms to those deprived areas, and so few would actually move. It would be great, but when you look at the enterprise zone map that they're proposing, half the bloody country is an enterprise zone. And which makes your point exactly. It's pointless uprooting half the country from there to moving it to there. That won't work. But if there were just 3 or 4 or 5 in the country, you could say, yeah, these places are desperate.
I just think I think the most telling thing is they say on the one hand what they want is a high wage economy, but when anybody asks for a higher wage, just a little bit more, they are labelled enemies of the state. So that's all you need to know.
And these enterprise zones and freeports, when you look at them historically, because Europe had them and they got rid of them, but when you look at what actually goes there, it's warehousing. That isn't high skill, high wage.
Right.
It's low wage.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't work on any front at the end of the day. But anyway.
Well, it does. See, people are looking at it in the wrong way. You're looking at it based on what they say is the intention, but that's not the intention. It will really work for corporations who don't like the idea of paying any tax. And because there will be less tax coming in, because these organisations will operate in a sort of land that is their own within another country, ours, because less tax will be coming in, then there will be less money to spend on the things that people on low wages depend on.
Yeah, if you think about it and you think past the first statement that they make, which seems all very rosy, but when you actually explore what the consequence is, there's no value at all to the country.
Not to the country, but for the corporations that locate there, big success, huge. It's just that they won't be contributing to the upkeep of the country because they'll be able to keep all their money by dint of not having to pay any tax.
Yeah, and if you work 60% of your working hours in an enterprise zone, you get a national insurance decrease. So that is very tempting for people to think, oh, well, if these companies come and I work there, they're not going to charge me any NI. But again, if you don't pay NI, who's going to pay for your hospital?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. The less money you earn, the more you rely on the things that should be provided by the state. And but you can't tell people that because they think, oh, look, I've got an extra £5 a week in my pocket. Great success. But if everybody chips in and gives that £5 and the government uses it for the benefit of the people, then you get one of those socialist countries where everybody's going around HAPPY. Like Norway and Sweden and, the perfect countries where the happy people live.
Yeah, keep dreaming, mate.
Yeah, all right, I will. Thanks a lot, Mike. 0345. Mind you, if you live in one of those countries, then you have to eat cheese for breakfast.
Disgusting.
Nobody wants to do that. They do actually eat cheese at breakfast time in those perfect countries. So that is, it's probably one of the reasons they're all 6 foot tall.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
0345 6060 973. Mary tweets, hi Nick, did you see that the Foreign Office spent £1,850 in the Norwich City Football Club shop while Liz Truss, who is a lifelong Norwich supporter, was Foreign Secretary? Does this mean she bought their entire team? Well, that's just offensive, Mary. Did they really? The Foreign Office spent £1,850 in the Norwich City Football Club shop? Well, I wouldn't be remotely surprised. God, what a shower, eh? Manchester. Hello, Marcus.
Hi, Nick. I'd just like to say I'm a big-time fan of yours.
Thanks.
Basically, what my concern is obviously the Ukraine crisis. I'm sure it's on many people's minds, but it's sort of the recent escalation with the chance of nuclear conflict.
Yeah, global thermonuclear war. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and fortunately, I was born in the mid '80s, so I didn't experience the Cold War era of the nuclear annihilation. But it seems like it's repeating itself almost.
Right. Well, there's no point in worrying about it, mate, because there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I guess so. But I feel like hopefully the current policy with the tax cuts could do something about that. You know,
what?
Cutting the banker's bonuses and trickling down. You know, I'm a banker myself, and I'm pretty good at.
Yeah, you know what? I've decided not to believe you anymore. I'm just getting a feeling.
Warning!
All right, thanks a lot, Marcus. For whatever that was. Sam texts, I went to see Moon Age Daydream this evening. Great film. I'm sure you like Bowie and you'd love it. Yeah. I've seen it and I think it's maybe the sort of thing you wait till it comes out on TV. I don't know. I'll think about it. Leave it with me, Sam, and I'll think. Let's see what this one's like. Southend, Chase.
How you doing, Nick?
Good, thanks.
Nice to talk to you, mate. You all right there?
Yes, good.
Yeah, I was just ringing up because I'm coming up to the age of 40, and a lot of my friends, for the past 8 years, have just gone into buying a home and a mortgage, and been used to such low interest rates.
Yes.
And what we're really all scared about is the fact that next year they could go up to 5%, and
I can remember when it was 15%.
I don't know how you've done that. I mean, at the moment, I'm sort of like what I earn on my day job. I sort of pretty much break even. I can pay for all my bills.
Right.
So I'm enjoying 2.09 at the moment. So if it goes up, to around 5% next year, I just don't know what my generation's going to do. I don't know whether we've been all a bit naive to sort of, not think about possibly it going up, obviously, in the future. We've been so used to it being so low since 2009. I think base rate was 0.5.
Yeah. It's always the same. You can't imagine, like in the summertime, you can't imagine it being there being snow on the ground. It's difficult to imagine something other than what you're experiencing right now. It's the same with interest rates.
I know, and the scariest thing at the moment is that my company I work for, Openreach, we're doing our third bout of strikes. We're going to do 4 days coming up. And obviously, to try and, get that increase in wage, because they only offered us 3.6, and inflation, as we know, is near 10%.
Yeah.
We just going without. What I mean is my children have everything that I can give for them, but me and my missus, we just got no quality of life. And you think next year, when we come out of our fixed, in July,
then what?
I don't know what we're going to do. And the only sort of backup plan we got is my missus, has got the chance to sort of do some part-time work around the kids' school hours. But it just feels like if that does work out and she does get a part-time job, that money was supposed to sort of be our time of life to have a better quality of life.
Right, it'll just disappear. Yeah.
And it's just going to go. And it's like, I don't know, our generation, we sort of we've had to put up with housing costing so much. And only because I bought a nice car just before we got a mortgage, and I was able to sell my car to get a deposit on a mortgage, was we ever able to get one in the first place.
Right, and people who are retired now, who bought their house in the 50s or the 60s or the 70s, they think that they've had a hard life, but they bought their house when it cost £10,000, and now it's worth £1 million, and they basically that generation, which sort of almost includes me, have entered the castle of riches and pulled up the drawbridge to ensure that nobody else follows them, and that's you.
Yeah.
All right, well, I wish you the best, Chase. Thanks for that. 0345 6060 973. Judder texts, what sort of programmed sheep would actually want higher taxes? Well, I know that that's an easy argument to throw out there, and you think that you're right about it, but if just thinking about it for a moment would convince you perhaps otherwise. Because the countries that have higher taxation and whose governments actually use that money for the benefit of the people have happier populations. It's all an exact correlation. Look at the list of the happiest countries in the world, and they produce these lists once a year, more or less. So it's the happiest countries in the world, and they're always the same. Sweden, Finland, Norway, that lot. Always right at the top. Coincidentally, they also have the highest taxes. And then you look at the countries with the lowest tax rate, and they are also the unhappiest people in the world. It's not a coincidence. It's when the state acts in the interests of all of the people and provides safety for them, so that if you don't manage to meet your mortgage payment, your entire life won't fall apart and you'll find yourself sleeping in a shoe shop doorway. Or like that last chap, fearful of what might happen to him in the future. That's not the case in any of these other countries. The people pay a little bit more for the benefit of having that money pooled and used for their collective, I can't think of another word than benefit. That's two uses of the word benefit in the same sentence. Big mistake, huge. Your taxes go for things that you rely on. The NHS, obviously, social care, the roads, streetlights, the police, everything that you rely on, that's what your taxes go for. And the less tax that is collected means the less can be provided for the things that people rely on in their lives. And it just seems so blatantly obvious. But it's a very difficult thing to get your head around compared to a government saying, here's a £5. And you think, wow, I just got a £5. So I hope that explains it to you, Jenna, what kind of programme sheet would actually want higher taxes, those that are actually interested in the quality of their lives. Let's see. Edinburgh, Marion.
Oh, hi, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Just a quick one on that higher taxes. I completely agree with everything you just said. However, if there were higher taxes with this current law,
well, that's the key.
Just siphon it off.
That's the key. They have to use that money for the benefit of all of the people.
Yes.
Not just take it and put it into the pockets of their donors.
Exactly. So, sorry, I realise you're a bit short of time here, and I'll try and be quick. So, I was listening to LBC earlier, and Mick Lynch, the RMT guy, was on one of the shows, and he was being asked about what he thought about some of the things in the budget, mini budget, whatever the hell they're calling it, yesterday. But he took the opportunity, quite rightly, to make the absolute point that this government is trying to take all the workers' rights, all the protest rights, he really went full on all the things.
Well, all of that's true.
Yeah, but where is this voice? Is he the voice? Where is the other voices for this? This is necessary,
Well, the Labour Party has the opportunity over the next few days to actually make some noise in that regard, because they have their conference. The conference season is upon us. So we'll see what they say. The goal is wide open. If Keir Starmer misses this goal, well, I think that the man is sunk. But thanks for that, Marion. I'll be back tonight at 10 o'clock. Don't forget that this show is available as a podcast. It is available as a catch-up, confusingly, and that's how it sounded going out live. But it's also available as a podcast on Global Player. And it's exclusively on Global Player now, the podcast of this show. Just do an internet search, Nick Abbot Podcast, the whole show. It's on Global Player. If you follow me on Twitter, then I'll point you in the right direction. And finally, Michael texts, "Hi Nick, who would have thought that in 2018 that Theresa May would be the third worst Prime Minister we'd see by 2022? Yeah, I'll leave you with that. 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 Yeah, I'll leave you with that.